considering a naturally built heat source for any home, not many fireplaces work as well and are as kind to the environment as a masonry or European heat storage stove. A good source for research is the Masonry Stove book by David Lyle. This book provides much documentation, history, and illustrations on how these stoves have kept homes warm for centuries worldwide. Research aside, these stoves are complex and require the knowledge of someone skilled in the art of fireplace masonry and design. We would be negligent if we did not stress the importance of hiring a qualified professional and are by no means suggesting you make one on your own. We will now take you on a tour through the creation of our masonry stove, which provides supplemental heat in our straw-bale hybrid home. The key design aspects to our stove are its large thermal mass and the smoke channels following an airtight firebox. The large mass allows a fire to burn extremely hot and without smoke, while the long smoke channels extract additional heat from the stove before entering the chimney. Heat is stored in the masonry in and around the firebox and smoke channels. After stoking a very hot fire for 1 to 2 hours, it is then released slowly into the room for over a long time, usually between 8 to 12 hours. A well-designed masonry stove can reach efficiencies of over 80% compared to a regular wood-burning stove with roughly 30% efficiency. These fireplaces on the whole use less firewood than their regular fireplace counterparts, burn virtually without smoke, and do not create creosote buildup that could lead to a chimney fire. The ideal fuel are small pieces, dead branches, or scrap wood. Large logs typically used in wood stoves won't burn hot enough and will generate lots of smoke that could ruin the system over time. We would like to touch briefly on the topic of firewood use. We take down between 2 to 4 standing dead trees a year on our heavily wooded land surrounded by the National Forest, which is a unique living situation. We manage our land mindfully to help prevent potential wildfires and to minimize our impact upon the creatures who live in the woods with us. We encourage everyone to research where and how their firewood is sourced, or better yet, work with scrapped wood or leftovers from local lumber suppliers for burning in any fireplace. Since masonry stoves need to be built on site, they are usually custom creations with a high sticker price in the range of $10,000 on up for full-sized and $4,500 on up for smaller stoves. We looked for ways to make an affordable design which functions well for our budget without compromising its functionality. The total cost for materials for our stove was $500, not including the chimney itself and labor. After much research, we designed a stove based on the modern German hybrid stove design, which employs a cast iron firebox and a clay-based shell. This design has the added advantage that it heats by convection and radiation, which makes it much faster to respond to heating demands. We reused an airtight heavy-gauge steel stove, bought very cheap at a garage sale, and standard flue liners and fire bricks to build the smoke channels. The core of the stove was then enclosed in a shell made from adobe and cob. The steel stove required several modifications to make it work properly in this new configuration. The standard air intake was too small to allow the fire to burn properly, and the 6-inch stovepipe adapter too small to handle the large amount of hot gases to exit the firebox and enter the smoke channels. We adapted those aspects to fit our needs first, and then began the overall construction, executed by our friend Christopher, who is a trained fireplace mason. The flue sections took a few days to construct, in addition to air channels, which were created beside the firebox for the convection part of the stove. A quick jump ahead shows how the air channels work. Soon after a fire is started, The air between the stove and the masonry heats up and creates an airflow which draws cold air from floor level, heats it up quickly, and releases that hot air through registers near the top of the stove. Back now to constructing the channels. You can see how the channels build upon each other in the design as they loop over and around each other, each building upon the prior layer, until finally the channels connect to the chimney, which is built with adobe brick and flue liners. Once the core of our stove design was completed and connected to the chimney, we test fired it to check for any potential leaks or other problems before continuing with the final detailing. We chose to create a hot box above the main stove for heating dishwater and other food items, so we could use the heat generated and save on the energy needed to heat water for washing up. Once the shell was completed and functioning well, we began to add more thermal mass in the form of adobe bricks and cob, a hand-sculpted mud. Cob can be formed into any shape and holds heat for extended periods of time, which is the beauty of thermal mass. We inlaid large rocks for our own personal aesthetic, as well as other details. We then applied custom earthen plasters for the final touch. And here it is, the completed fireplace, a central place in our living area and one of the first things you encounter when you enter our home. We can report that the performance of our stove has been remarkable and provides our main living space with heat for hours. After stoking the fire for 2 hours in the morning, the collected heat radiates into the living space for the rest of the day, and we can report that after 12 hours, the stove still has a warmth radiating from it. They are simply fabulous tools for heating a home with minimal firewood and a maximum aesthetic. We couldn't be happier with the results. We love our masonry stove and we would make another in a heartbeat. We hope you've enjoyed the tour. Thanks for watching.